how's your retirement going? Are your finances in order? The thing is, you don't know what you don't know, and that's why we have Dan Allweiler here, who's going to be joining us from Sterling Financial. He's going to tell us the things.
Good to see you, Michael.
Good to see you.
Are you an Olympic guy?
I've been watching a little bit. I watched some of the gymnastics and swimming last night. It's fun, but I'm not like the sit 24/7 recording stuff, watching it later.
I record it and then eliminate 3/4 of it that I don't want to watch.
See, there you go.
And so, but because half of the stuff you don't want to see,
Well, let's talk about eliminating mistakes in our retirement plans. And people might they might be making some simple mistakes that people think, oh, there's no problem here, but there might be. Number one,
you're winging it. You don't have a plan. Okay, so generally speaking, we've kind of accumulated all these assets during our working years, and you get to 65, 70, whenever you retire, and you just kind of wing it. Hopefully you'll have enough money to left. You really need to have a plan in place, project it out.
Right, right. And what do you see when somebody walks in there, you say, oh man, this person's been winging it. It's like, okay, I have a savings account, or I have a 401k, but I don't even know what's in it, or I have a
401k that it's been there for the last 10 years at my previous employer. I don't know. So you really do need to kind of sit down and find out what your goals are, what it is you're trying to accomplish, how much monthly income you need, and kind of build a plan around that so you feel like you've got something in place that you can kind of count on.
Yeah, because it's for some people they need maybe a couple thousand a month. For some people that's a bigger, depending on how you're going into retirement. Are you still paying a mortgage?
Probably
and
more
like that?
rare than common is people that come in with a pension. You don't have pensions as much anymore.
Right.
And so generally the source of income is Social Security, which we've talked about in the past, can be there or not, depending upon what happens in Congress. And they might have some rental income, but you need to kind of put a plan in place to say, okay, here's my monthly income. How much do I need to take out of my investments each year in order to make that happen?
Right, and so that's what you do. You sit down, you have housing costs, insurance, groceries, and all sorts of things like that. Number two is underestimating the length of your retirement.
A lot of people, back when our parents were growing up, and they probably had a life expectancy of 65, 70. Now we're at 79 or 80, depending upon gender.
And that's just the average. Some folks are,
And that's my folks lived to 95 and 96.
Wow.
Okay, so a good gene pool hopefully there. But when we set up a plan, we generally are projecting out 25 to 30 years. I'd rather plan for age 95 and have you live to 90 than plan for 85 and have you live to 90.
Right.
And so you really need to understand that life expectancy, the older we get, the more our life expectancy goes out. So being born in 2000, our life expectancy is 79. When we get to 65, it might be 85.
And when you sit down with somebody and kind of explain that to them, hey, you have this nest egg, you have this retirement, but to make it stretch to here, we're going to have to make some decisions.
Well, hopefully you're going to earn some money on that, and depending upon how aggressive or how conservative you are, we are fairly conservative in our projections, and if anything over and above that comes in, that's great. But be investing in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency right now probably isn't the best thing for somebody who's in their retirement years.
Right. You want something that's going to be income, but it's also going to have
stable,
some stability.
Right. Exactly. So you don't want to underestimate your life expectancy, but at the same time, when you get this plan in place, you can project out 25 or 30 years.
And one of the things that we've certainly factored in the last few years, or at least become far more aware of, is inflation, right?
Well, yeah, ever since COVID, we've had inflation, relatively speaking, from the 2008 recession, inflation was fairly limited, until COVID hit. Government started handing out money, printing money, and giving it to people. That's when, it just reared its ugly head.
Right.
And so if you need $5,000, $6,000 today, 10, 15 years from now, you might need $7,500 a month. And that doesn't bring into account perhaps healthcare costs or anything like that. So inflation, you can say, yeah, I can get by on $5,000, $6,000, but 10 years from now, $5,000 or $6,000 isn't going to fill the gas tank.
Right.
I mean,
well, let's know something that doesn't
yeah,
that bad,
it's tough. And so in our projections and our plans that we put together for people, we actually build in an inflation clause, that's going to increase their income over a period of time, depending upon what they need.
And as we live longer, the last few years of many people's lives are sometimes the most challenging in terms of their health.
Well, what I have found is we spend more money in the early years of our retirement on travel and going to our bucket list, so to speak.
Right.
So we're spending money on that, and they say, well, when I get to be 80, 85, I'm not going to be doing all those things, and so I don't need as much.
Right.
Well, what happens is we trade our entertainment and travel expense for medical expense. And so you probably will need that depending upon, I'd rather plan for it and have it in the plan versus saying, oh, at age 75 or 80, I'm only going to need $4,000 a month.
Right, yeah, and something as simple as somebody coming in and helping prepare meals if you're still living independently, and think that just those kind of care needs just automatically start to, oh, I need this, I need help with this, I can't drive anymore, now I need help with this, and so that doesn't always have to be, we're not always talking about hospital or disease.
Yeah, we're not talking about having to go into a nursing facility, but maybe having somebody come in and assist you during the day or something that you need to have done, and that costs a little bit of money, but yeah, healthcare costs, obviously, as we've grown older as a society, has come into play a lot more than it used to when we didn't have as, the baby boomers are aging, and that's what it is.
And that's just the reality of it.
Right.
And our last one is something I'm guilty of in my early days was I got this 401k, I didn't know much about it, I picked a couple things and I forgot about it.
Well, we have people that come in and we've worked with them for, 10, 15 years. And we put up a plan together and, they've never looked at it again. Okay? Well, and so a lot of things can happen over the course of our retirement. Maybe on the positive side, some parents pass away and you get an inheritance.
A positive and negative there, but
but I'm just saying in your own particular financial situation, and they pass away and you receive an inheritance, you don't have to take out maybe as much as you used to because you have more assets to work with. And so you don't want to put the plan in place and never update it along the way. You probably need to look at it. It's kind of like your trust document. You can have a trust document in place, but if you've had a child pass away or some other issues that come up, you've gotten divorced, you want to update that trust. Same with your financial plan. You want to be able to upgrade that or change it or modify it if needed along the way. And so the older we get, maybe a spouse has passed away and we need to make some adjustments to beneficiaries on some of the accounts and things like that. So you always want to be updated in regards to your plan.
Someone walks into your office and what's the first thing that they should expect, a kind of a session of just going over a little bit of everything?
Yeah, well, we kind of try to get to know them in the first session. It doesn't do any good to get all the information without really knowing what they're trying to do. And so we want to be able to get to know them a little bit, find out in general what their assets are, how much their monthly needs are, Social Security, and then we can start drilling down into putting a plan together and analyzing their risk portfolio and things along that line. So it's usually, I'm going to say, 3 or 4 meetings before we actually shake hands and say, hey, let's work together.
There we go. All right, Dan Owaller from Sterling Financial. If you found your name or one or two of these on your list that you might have been making mistakes, it might be a good time to go over to Sterling Financial and make an appointment. Thanks so much, Dan.
Good to see you, Michael.
When we come back, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Orange County chapter is going to be here talking about what you can do to make sure you're okay down the line. We got a hotline and some more information for you, so stay tuned.